Welcome back to the My Latin Life podcast. Since 2014, My Latin Life has been your trusted guide to traveling and living in Latin America. Our guest today is Alexander Jarvis. He's a British financier in football. I think he's buying and selling football teams. He's also a landowner in Paraguay. He's buying land in Paraguay. He's buying cows. He's splitting his time between Dubai and Paraguay. Alexander, how's it going, man?
Hey, I'm good. Good. I know you're in Europe, but good morning from Cacupe, Paraguay. And
Cacupe.
good to connect finally.
For sure. Cacupe it's a province, right? And a city. It's like a city and state.
Yeah, so it's like the Cordelia kind of region of Paraguay. Where I am right now, it's about an hour and 20 minutes away from Asacion, about same amount of distance to the airport. But for me, it's beautiful. I did 10 plus years in cities, now living in skyscrapers, living above the 30th floor, and
Sure.
Hong Kong, London, Liverpool, Beijing, Chongqing, and now obviously Dubai as well. So for me, I've always really wanted to get back onto the land. Having like a ranch, it's just a different kind of way of living, and for me, I just much prefer it. So
Okay, I want to hear about this transition to farm life. I'll give a quick context for the audience. So Alexander Jarvis, he's on Twitter. I'll link his Twitter in the description. He's got 16,000 followers, doing pretty good over there, and he's been pretty active in our Paraguay Telegram group. If you guys don't know, we have a whole bunch of different Telegram groups. They're free to join. Good kind of community and networking there. And Alexander's been in there a little bit, talking about buying land in Paraguay. And what's funny is I've seen some of these like fly by night, buy land guys, or they're trying to sell you an investment in a soybean farm and stuff like that. And some of it's like a little iffy. But I don't know. I'll let you guys judge for yourself what Alexander has going on, and it's good to connect with you, man.
cool. Now, I don't know. I've done 70 countries, traveled the world, and I've been kind of a little bit nomadic for the last, I'd say, 12 years. And I kind of left England. I left the UK back in 2022. I was just sick of the politics, sick of the bad weather and the poor behaviour from government and other types of people. And I just, I wanted to kind of have a clear tax break. So obviously moving to the UAE from the UK is a bit more simpler than going to Paraguay. So I set up a company in the UAE and then kind of restructured the business, because I can pretty much work from a laptop and phone anywhere on the planet as long as I've got a decent internet. So for me it was just from the UK. We were really broke ties to the UAE, and then obviously the UAE, Dubai's got a lot of things going for it, but I just burn cash so easily in Dubai. Several £100,000 easily per year, and for me, I don't know. It's pretty polluted. The 6 months of obviously summer is pretty. I know Paraguayans bitch about their summer, but UAE is a full-on desert. and it regularly. I've gone for walks in like 50 Celsius heat. In the afternoon. So for me, it was kind of from the UK to the UAE, and then I just thought, well, I'm never going to get a passport in the UAE. I'm never going to be, obviously, there's no path to citizenship there. And obviously, I want kids, I want to build a family, and there's just a lot of things that I want to do at this stage of my life. And I just couldn't, and I didn't really want to kind of do that in the UAE. And obviously, it's a bubble, right? It's a pretty artificial bubble in a lot of ways. There's obviously a huge amount of Brits there and Europeans. So it's great for networking, but I don't know, I mostly work for Americans. And for me, being on the kind of nearer to the East Coast and kind of working with people in Chicago, New York, Boston, it's just kind of easier for my kind of business. And I never really did any business with Emiratis. I wasn't too focused on that. For me, it was really kind of just a tax break and just kind of, just getting back to compound the money and just kind of getting my financials in order, and obviously getting away from a 45% income tax situation in England to a zero income tax situation in the UAE. So I was longing for to kind of build my own house in the country and have it to a certain
Yeah, yeah.
level. And I got really frustrated with looking at stuff in Colombia and Brazil. I Obviously there's a lot of nice things about those countries, but both countries are run by socialist kind of governments, and have been. If you look at the last 50 years, there's been a lot of volatility, a lot of obviously there's been coups, there's been a lot of problems in those countries. And for me, obviously, like if you if you're spending a load of money, building your dream house, you don't really want to be in an environment where a new tax can come in within a year,
Hmm.
and other changes like that. So I just thought Paraguay was pretty interesting. It's obviously a little bit off the radar for most people in the nomad kind of community, and just expats in general. I mean, I think I've met about 15 Brits since I've been here. And
Nice.
I've probably done like a dozen events. I've met more Canadians than I've met English or British people here, which is quite interesting. But yeah, I mean, for me, it was just Paraguay just had a lot of good things going on. I like the trajectory of the government. I think that they're doing a lot of good things. They're very kind of conservative, family orientated. I don't see a trans culture or anything, or woke culture kind of coming in here
Nope.
anytime soon. And obviously, there's a lot of big landowners who have a huge amount of power politically here. So I can't
Hmm.
see any kind of big changes to land ownership. So for me, it was like a no-brainer. I just saw a few opportunities, and I was like, okay, I've got to get my visa, get all this sorted, get on the ground, start learning my Spanish, and obviously, start kind of building a trusted network of people I can work with. So I've actually only probably done about 5, maybe 6 months so far in this country, because I've done a bit of travel as well.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I've probably got better contacts here than I've got in the UAE, just because I've just spent so much time trying to get the right person for different for different things that I'm going to need.
And when you say you've done a dozen events, do you mean just like attending events, or are you um, taking part in organizing events too?
No, no, I'm not organised. I just as a guest, like
Yeah, yeah.
I've got a few. Well, I've got a British friend here from Cornwall. Like he did an event for like entrepreneurs out here, and obviously it's kind of small. The expat community is pretty small here. Also got a few crypto friends here, so done a few kind of hangouts with them. But yeah, for me, it was just more to kind of see kind of where people are at here. I mean, I don't think there's many people with my kind of plan. Maybe there's a lot more Germans, but
Yeah.
they're a little bit more isolated, and obviously I don't speak German. That they very much do their own networking in like San Bernardino. So yeah, I mean, I went to like a farmers market a few weekends ago on a Saturday, and it was literally all German. There was like at least 1,000 Germans. So
Mm.
yeah,
In Cacupe, or where was the farmers market?
in San Bernardino,
In
which
San
is
Bernardino. Yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah.
like probably 25 minutes away from where I am. That's kind of like where a lot of like kind of upper class people kind of live, or the kind of Paraguayans with money that kind of live in the city of
Mhm.
Sachin, but they always have like their summer house in the country. So it's
Uh-huh.
pretty nice. But for me, it's like silly valuations. So you're talking like, I mean, I've seen property for like $1 million for I wouldn't say a high standard quality build. So yeah, I mean, no, it is what it is, right? Sometimes location is just very important for these valuations.
And for the audience, you kind of showed me on video offline, uh, where you're at right now, but you're in the countryside in Cacupe. You got 20 hectares, I think you said.
Yeah, I think it's just like 21 hectares here.
21 hectares, which I guess
Yeah.
is like 60 acres or something. And you got cows. Are you renting this property? Did you act, you've only been there 6 months and you bought 20 hectares already?
Yeah, so when you buy property here, there's a lot of land that actually doesn't have, you can't get deeds. So
Uh-huh.
no, a major red flag for anyone who's looking at land here. So just obviously, my advice would be very careful when you are buying property, because it does take about 3 months to process and to make sure you've got title.
Hmm.
So a lot of people selling property, they want 50% up front. And I would recommend 10 to 20% deposit. But once you've got it, I mean, the land's yours. Building stuff here is pretty easy. I mean, in terms of the permits. I mean, like it takes like literally like a day or 2 days to process, from my understanding. But my kind of plan is to just buy like 3 to 5 hectares of different land. obviously non-urban. So obviously this is more kind of, it looks like cattle grazing land, but I mean, you can build property here. My plans are to get to about 100 hectares over the next few years. So right now I'm in talks on about 47 hectares, but a lot of it's still kind of I'm grinding with the notary because I said it does take kind of a while to get your land here.
Yeah.
And obviously buying cattle and stuff, it's for me, it's like a no-brainer. You can get it super cheap, like a few $100s. And obviously, if I
Per
was in
head.
England, I could probably 15x that money on selling a bull. But obviously, in Paraguay, the economics are very different. But for me, I just think it's really interesting that there's kind of space. But yeah, I'm looking to kind of renovate where I am right now. Obviously, build a few houses. I want to build my own dream house, 6 bedroom, kind of with everything you can imagine, and then like a three bedroom guest houses, and then a security house in the front. So yeah, I've got all that in motion, but it's a grind. Things don't happen too easy, as in they don't happen too fast here, and
Hmm.
obviously the language is sometimes a bit of a barrier for me. But it's not like when I lived in China. So when I lived in China, though I had very good VPNs, Google download Spanish was obviously would have been very hard for me to get. Obviously, Pinyin simplified Spanish. It was really really hard to just communicate with people. And I went through like a lot of stress and kind of like just drama, kind of in taxis, other things in China. So I did learn a language a lot more easier. Where for me, Spanish, obviously I'm going to learn it and there's obviously a lot of people here, especially Germans. There's a lot of Germans I've met here that don't speak any Spanish, which is quite interesting. So some of these guys have been here 10, 20 years. But yeah, for me, like having it on your Google Translate, download it, it's just so easy. But the issue with Paraguay is obviously a lot of the locals outside of Asashian also speak Guarani,
Yeah.
and it's like for a non-Spanish speaker, when you hear Colombian Spanish or Chilean Spanish, and then you hear Spanish from someone in Madrid, it's very different. Like for me, if you like, for instance, if you're just doing Duolingo, you're going to understand a little bit, like maybe a few words in every sentence. But if a Guarani kind of if a
Yeah,
Paraguayan
Barney's
spoke
not
Guarani,
happening.
yeah, it
Barney.
blows your mind, right? But I've got a
Yeah.
security guy here, and he speaks Guarani. He also speaks great English and Spanish. So it's kind of like for me, it's the stress of that is kind of just been eliminated now. So yeah, and I'm not really looking to do too much here. Like I'm not getting involved in politics. I'm not really kind of looking to build businesses here in the short term. For me, it's just kind of buying land. That it's good value. I've been paying $5,000 to $16,000 a hectare, depending on the location. But all of it is around Kaki Pay.
Yeah.
And obviously, yeah, no, you can get you can get land for the same amount of price in Norway or Sweden, but then you also don't have 65% taxes and all the other stuff. I mean, the land tax here is super minimum. And I
Uh-huh.
think it was the stuff I bought before cost like $60 or something for a load of for a big amount of land. And obviously in England, that
Okay. So
it's just not
five to
possible.
16 grand per hectare.
Yeah,
Uh, times
USD.
USD, so times 20. So that's 200, 300. So did you pay something on the order of 300K for your 21 hectare property with a house and a pool on it?
Yeah, a little bit less. But there's a lot of stuff that you need to do with this land. It's not like it's not a high Western standard, these houses. You have to, like for instance, the way they build, the kind of basically the foundations are not built properly. So you kind of, you get obviously the mold and the kind of rot that comes up. That's why obviously there's a lot of walls in a lot of these places where they kind of have the black molding. And obviously, if you just let that go over time, a lot of people they just kind of paint over it. But it's just but obviously it's pretty bad for like human health and stuff. So for me, like rebuilding it to a high standard. I've got actually through your group I met. It wasn't directly, but it was through someone I met on the group. I got a guy who's actually Iranian, just total unicorn in the middle of Kakyupe. So this guy's like the only Iranian I've met in South America, and he owns a pretty successful construction business here. So I've been kind of working with him, and obviously he's the guy who's going to kind of build out these properties for me. And he's a like structured engineer. He's built probably the best house I've seen in Kakyupe so far. So yeah, for me it's all about the network, and it does obviously take time. And in terms of getting property here, I looked at like 50 properties where I had to go on the land. Obviously, now my skin's like mosquito, kind of.
You visited 50 different properties in
Yeah, like
person.
literally walked the parameters of at least 50 properties. Mostly kind of Kakipe and Piribi Boy, which are probably
Uh-huh.
pronounced it wrong, but it's like a town probably another hour away from Musashi. It's about 2.5 hours away,
Sure.
maybe 3 hours. But yeah, no, that was kind of where I was looking. I just think it's the best looking countryside, and yeah, and obviously you're not too far away from the capital and an airport. And obviously from Asashin Airport, I mean, you can get to Sao Paulo within 2.5 hours, which is pretty much the business capital of South America. So for me, it's no, I don't think a lot of people feel isolated here. Like it's no, I mean, I don't really mind it. I think it's, I mean, for what I want, it's perfect.
I was curious. Tell me about the football stuff a little bit. So I saw something about buying and selling football teams, flipping football teams. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so back in 2014, I was pretty much selling real estate in China. So I was helping Chinese investors buy real estate, mostly in the UK, also Switzerland. And one of my Chinese friends, he was, they call him a Fuwa Dai, which is like second generation rich kid. And we used to party together. We used to, yeah, like we used to go KTV, which is like karaoke. And yeah, but one day he was like just totally drunk and he was like, hey, like we're going to buy a football club. I was just like, yeah. No, but at that time, no mainland Chinese investors owned any football clubs outside of China.
Mhm.
And I just thought he was like, I don't know, just talking crap and just, just a little bit drunk. And yeah, about a month later, he said, hey, we're flying to Madrid tonight. Do you want to come? And then that's literally how I got involved in football. So, right place, right time. And I just went from selling pretty expensive residential like apartments in the UK and Europe to just kind of specializing in selling football clubs. So I kind of went on a run from 2016 to 2018 where I sold a few football clubs to Chinese investors. And I also worked with a few Chinese banks, financing these football club acquisitions. So yeah, it was kind of like right place, right time. It's quite unique in the market, and there was a lot of European football clubs trying to access the Chinese market. They couldn't speak Chinese, no, they didn't have any contacts, and yeah, I was just really, really well placed in Beijing with a lot of good contacts. So yes, that's kind of how I got into the business. My last 6 or 7 deals have been all with Americans, no Canadians and East Coast American guys, and
East
yeah, like
Coast American guys buying European football clubs?
correct, yeah. So,
Okay.
so yeah, like no. So I've been involved in a few. Like I've sold 6 football clubs in England, no, another 5 in Europe, and I've also sold some minority stakes. I also do some football financing. So I work with several US big family offices, like 50 billion dollar kind of assets under management kind of funds. So I worked with MSD Capital, which is Michael Dell's family office, a few years back, and we did over it was a so we did £125 million loan for West Ham and a £20 million loan for West Brom. So that's about $180 million at the time. So yeah, so it's kind of like so do a bit of M&A and obviously do some loans. But for me, because I've built these relationships over years, I don't have to be in Europe kind of rebuilding these relationships and kind of keeping relationships warm. No, once you've kind of got a name, track record in football, as long as you're bringing the buyers or you're bringing the money, there's always going to be a market. So for me, I just like wanted to design my life. I mean, it's more of a like kind of lifestyle business. I'm not looking to kind of build an M&A advisory firm with like a merchant bank. That's not my kind of goal. It was just to pretty much obviously there's very few businesses where you get to spend so much time with dysfunctional multimillionaires and billionaires who obviously want to buy football clubs and kind of be in that space. So for me, it was just yeah, like just. I mean, I'm not overly a big football fan. I mean, I'm a Liverpool fan, and I love going to games with my dad. But I'm not like I'm not. I don't watch like 10 football games a week or over the weekend. That's just not me. But I really like the business of like sports and football, especially. So
Mhm.
yes, that's kind of how I got into that business. So again, like met someone random, just right place, right time, and then I just knew there was easy money to be made in that business, and I'm good at the grind. So like for me, it was a perfect type of business.
Hmm. What does that mean you're good at the grind?
I don't want to say I'm good at eating shit, but like I'm good at just like taking a lot of stress. And I'm very good at dealing with complicated people. And obviously, when everyone else is freaking out, I'm very kind of cold and just kind of very steady. Which for my type of line of work, you really need to be in because there's so many highs and lows, and sometimes I can go like a year or 2 years without getting like a deal done, and sometimes really painful. And obviously, for most people, that would just break them and just like they would like mentally kind of just wouldn't be able to cope with that kind of that type of environment. But for me, yeah, I mean, I'm used to it being in the trenches. So yeah, I hope that makes sense for like entrepreneurs out there who kind of
Yeah.
having sometimes they're having a bad 6 months or having a bad year. I mean, like sometimes you just gotta kind of talk to yourself in the mirror and just kind of get back out there and just constantly be relentless. And just when people are saying no, I mean, sometimes I get like 50 no's a week on different like obviously different deals that I'm working on, and obviously like emotionally that sometimes can take a bit of a toll. But like for me, I'm just so used to it. I just kind of you get adapted to the grind and yeah, no. There's
No, I
other
hear you, dude. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur too, and it's, some you have good weeks, you have bad weeks. So how do you deal with the cash flow cycle? And do you have like other income streams? Are you doing other businesses? Or what do you do to finance, especially that Dubai lifestyle and so forth?
Yeah, well, I only do like a few months in Dubai now, so obviously I don't have such a huge burn rate. For me, it was more the traveling. Like I spent easily £1 million traveling over a few years, and I kind of when I travel, it's I'm certainly not a backpacker. No, I like I like the finer things. I mean, for me, like it depends on like the company you're in and kind of what stage of life you're in. Like for me, I don't really like partying anymore. I'm just kind of just think that alcohol just doesn't really benefit my life in any way anymore. So I'm not really into the club scene, not really into partying. So obviously for me, like living in the country, it's just it's just. I guess my time in life, I just want to recharge and kind of go to the next chapter with 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 a certain kind of amount of like time to just like rebuild my and kind of know what I want.
So are you still doing this, buying and selling teams and stuff? Or
Yeah,
what are you doing to make money now?
so as I said, I can work on my laptop and my phone. So
Hmm.
I sold two minority stakes in football clubs last year and a takeover, and I did about 10 to 12 million euros in sponsorship deals for some
Sponsorship.
crypto, for some crypto companies and stuff.
Okay.
I'm working on some pretty big takeovers right now for like a top 20 club in Europe. So it's a minority stake, but that's like a €100 million transaction. But for me, I personally like the 5, 10 million euro kind of level type deals, just because there's a lot more volume of investors for those types of deals. And I've tried to do some huge Premier League and La Liga takeovers before, and they're much harder to do, and you can lose 2 or 3 thousand hours of your life pretty easily. So I'm kind of working from here, working from the UE, working from wherever I am. But as I said, like I've got the buyers, so for me, it's a pretty easy kind of transition from I don't have to be in a boardroom sitting there kind of doing meetings. I mean, very few billionaire football club owners are going to want to meet me in a boardroom. These guys are available. They're on WhatsApp. They're fast. Actually, funny enough, some of the richest guys I know, they're usually the fastest people to communicate with. And yeah, there's definitely something in that. Where some of the people who I always think a bit of a red flag to work with, they're usually the ones who don't reply to you as quickly
Right.
in terms of turnaround.
Right. It's
But
funny. It's funny how the richest people are the quickest to respond. It's like that's kind of how they got rich, is that they get shit done fast.
yeah, especially in the football business. So, for instance, like some of the guys I deal with, they're on the second or third wife. They've got multiple houses in multiple locations. They've got usually a very big portfolio of assets, bonds, equities, different currencies, different parts of the world. No, they've probably got a jet or they've had one. No, they sometimes have a yacht. I mean, that they have all these things, right? And then, what's more, like, if you still want more after all that, then obviously, that's when they end up wanting to buy their kind of local football club, or they want to buy a football club on the other side of the world. Because, like, for instance, if you're an American, even if you're worth like $100 million, you can't buy an MLS franchise anymore. It's just way
Mhm.
too expensive.
Minority stake, I
Yeah,
guess.
the valuations are ridiculous, like 8 times revenue and just a lot of crazy stuff. So a lot of obviously Americans are just buying football clubs in Europe because yeah, I mean it's cheap. No, it's still cheap. You can buy things that are like 1 to 2 times revenue. So yeah, so I've got a pretty unique kind of set of friends.
Did the
I
business go way up after the Ryan Reynolds movie? I haven't even seen it, but didn't they like flip a soccer
Yeah,
team?
so they brought like a fifth tier club in Wales, no, which
What's
is
the movie
Cardiff.
called?
There's a Netflix series.
Series.
Yeah. So it's a fifth tier club in England. Now it's a League One club, so it's third tier. And yeah, like now they're flying. So for me, I like what they've done. I think when they get promoted to the championship, if they get promoted to the championship, I think they're going to start burning a load of cash. But what they've been doing is basically selling equity as they go to obviously
Uh,
finance the club and obviously to get some of their money back. But they've also brought some a stake in a Mexican club. They also just brought a Colombian football club in Bogota, which literally last week. So yeah, I mean they're very much branching out, but I mean it's celebrities, right? Like they're doing it for the media, and obviously they're treating it a little bit different than obviously someone who wants an EBITDA or a 2x over 5 years. No, it's a little bit of a different strategy. But yeah, it's good. No, it helps my line of work because I'm working on several deals where I've got a few celebrities involved, and obviously a lot of people want to do a Wrexham 2.0 where they buy a football club for say a few $1 million or a few £1 million, and then obviously kind of do what Ryan Reynolds and his partners did at Wrexham. So for me, I'm all for that. No, I think it's great for the fans, great for the business. A bit of fun, but yeah, I mean, it's just remember it is gambling, this kind of business, because for obviously there's a lot of success stories in football of ownership groups, but there's also a lot of horrific stories of bad owners and kind of clubs having major problems from doing these takeovers. So yeah,
sure.
no, I'm from England, so obviously I want the best for English football clubs. So I'm working on a few right now that I'm going to try and get the best custodian for.
Dude, you're living the dream basically. You're doing kind of like the two coolest businesses, the two most like masculine businesses, I feel, right? Like professional sports teams and farming and real estate in Paraguay. It's like the two, they're very different, but two very like masculine, like dream businesses.
Yeah, just for the record, I mean, I'm not like a farmer. I've got no kind of track record or background in farming. I had like a nice like a house when I was young, a big garden, and for me, like, I don't know. I just think I've ate so much poison over the years at restaurants and just kind of like the Western kind of standard diet. And for me, I just wanted to kind of be close to what I'm eating. So like for instance, there's a few bulls about 30 meters away from where I am, and I kind of know what they eat. They eat grass. They don't eat anything else. And for me, I mean, I just think if I'm gonna have kids, I want to have a family. I want to eat the right things, and I just think if you live in the West right now, unless you're preparing your own food and you're really kind of spending time and energy, kind of making sure you're eating the right stuff and storing things. I just think it's a lot of work right now to just live a healthy lifestyle, which is blows your mind. Really shouldn't. I mean, shouldn't that be your first priority? And obviously in the UAE, I could eat really well, and even back in the UK, I can eat well, but it costs a lot of money, right? You have to go out your way to, like for instance, raw milk. Trying to get that in England is pretty difficult. Here, like now, literally every day I can get it from.
This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by Crema Social. Crema Social is like TikTok for international dating. It's an app you can download right now on your phone, and 3 out of 4 people on Crema are single women. The app was founded in Colombia, so unsurprisingly, there are a lot of Latinas on the app, by the way. So, how does it work? Crema Social is a social meal experience where you invite a hot girl for a lunch date via video call and food delivery. New concept, so you'll have to try it out for yourself, but this is probably the best way to meet Latinas before you visit the country. So if you're in Latin America or planning to visit Latin America, download Crema Social now and start getting dates right away. There will be a link in the description to download, or just search Crema Social on your favorite App Store. Have fun, guys. This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by BitRefill. BitRefill is the best way to spend your crypto in Latin America. Purchase gift cards or mobile refills from more than 3,500 brands in 186 countries instantly, safely, and privately. You can also apply the code MyLatinLife at checkout to get 10% back on your first purchase. Go to bitrefill.com for more information. This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by Job Stacking. If you are a remote or hybrid worker looking to maximize your earning potential, then Rolf Holtze, the author of Job Stacking, guarantees you'll be able to double your income. This is the exact system Rolf has used to take his own income and those of many others beyond $20K a month. So what is job stacking? It's this idea of working multiple remote jobs. You might have heard Rolf, he's worked 5, 7, even 9 remote jobs at the same time before. And by the way, job stacking works equally well for non-technical roles. So no, it's not just for the nerds. So if you're ready to job stack, then book a discovery call with Job Stacking and see how they can double your income in just 9 weeks. In the show notes in the description, there will be a link where you can book a call directly on the Calendly of Job Stacking and be talking with them as early as tomorrow about how to double your income as quickly as possible. You know, I'll bring this back to Paraguay a little bit. I was hanging out with Lawrence King, who a lot of the audience probably knows. You've probably heard of him or even met him. Have you met him?
Yeah, so actually, the second time I arrived in Paraguay, we were randomly both in the same restaurant. They're literally the only people in this restaurant. It was in Maurice La Talleyrand in Assassin, and yeah, like we both bumped into each other. And yeah, I've known this guy for years because obviously he has very similar views to me on taxation and government, and or big government and a few other things. And yeah, I randomly bumped into a fellow Brit, or fellow Englishman. So yeah, it was good. Yeah, I like his stuff. And by the way, on the Twitter or on the X, I actually don't really tweet anymore. My kind of my followers were mostly from a few years back. I just obviously been in my business, so I can't really give people I can't give football fans like a running commentary when I'm doing takeovers. So I don't do too much social media anymore. Just because it's very hard to keep everyone happy, and yeah, like no, in my line of work, no, the media speculation is it's not good for deals.
Yeah. No, and so what I was going to say about Lawrence is one thing that we were talking about together is that one of his dreams is to buy a local Paraguayan football team or to build a business around sort of buying and selling players. So you buy and sell teams.
Mm.
Apparently, there's also a business around buying and selling players, and that's something he's into. Just thought I'd mention that.
Yeah, cool. I think he owns land here already. I think he's definitely got a few hectares. Now, I think I saw someone on the X. I mean, for me, like I will go in that direction over the next few years. I just don't think Paraguay is the right market for it, just because there's very few football clubs you can buy or that you can have equity in here. So a lot of the clubs are associations, they're SADs. So in England, I could buy a football club and I own the shares and I own the assets, the stadium, the training facility, etc. But here, it's a little bit complicated. Also, a lot of the football clubs are poorly managed financially. There's a lot of mismanagement. But I mean, there is plenty of player talent. Obviously, there's several Paraguayan players playing in England, for instance, in the Premier League. There's a player in Newcastle, there's a player in Brighton Hove and Albion. So obviously there is a huge growth market there. I've met all the big football agents here. Nice guys, but most of them don't speak Spanish. Now, I know that sounds terrible because I'm in a Spanish-speaking country, but obviously the El Dorado in football is the Premier League. And obviously, I think they have a lot of struggle getting their players into the clubs. So they rely mostly on kind of Portuguese and Spanish agents who kind of help those players get into, for instance, Porto in Portugal, or they'll bring them into a club in Spain, and then obviously that's when they sell them on. But if you could buy a football club in Paraguay, a football club in Portugal and then have your shop window in England somewhere, by owning a club there. I think that's pretty smart. There's plenty of multi-club ownership American groups that are in that business. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I should reach out to them on that. But for me personally, I'm not a football agent. No, I facilitate and broker the buying and selling of clubs. I don't kind of get involved post transaction because, as I said before, I'm not a football guy. I like being a consumer, as in watching a game with my family or going to a game and sitting in the boardroom. But I don't like to, I don't like to make decisions on players, and I'm not one of those football manager guys who who's like a data nut and who really loves being in that space. That's just not. It's a very different type of business.
Sure, sure. So when you go to a football game, you're up in the box with the owners.
Yeah, I'm usually trying to sell it or trying to buy it, and I've usually got a dysfunctionally rich guy next to me who's kind of loving it. Now, yeah, no, that's kind of yeah. I mean, that's kind of one of the reasons why I need to go back to Europe. I've got a few deals that I'm working on where I'm going to need to be in person. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's. I think Paraguay has got huge potential in the football space. I mean, look at Brazil, look at Colombia, Argentina. Obviously, huge. I mean, look at for instance in Colombia, Luis Diaz, like a player who plays in Liverpool, was found in I think it was a third tier club in Colombia. Like, obviously found from a scout. Obviously, they got him to Portugal, and now obviously he plays in Liverpool. So if you look at that 5 years, he went from being worth probably like $20,000 to being worth $120,000. That's like sorry, being worth 120 million US dollars. So yeah, I mean, there's obviously huge business in that for a football agent because obviously you get, let's say, a 10 to 15% fee for doing that deal, and obviously you also get paid on the salary and other stuff plus the image rights. So I mean, yeah, it's very lucrative. But there's only like in my view, there's about 10 big super agents around the world who make most of the money, and most of the other guys, they're more grinding and not making as good of an income as the top guys.
Interesting. And I wanted to bring it back with the time we have left to something more philosophical. How, you went from the high rise in Dubai to literally the polar opposite, where you're on a farm, over a 20-hectare farm with 25 cows, an hour away from the Asuncion airport. Um, what a big shift. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people listening to this that are still in that Dubai moment. They're still in the high rise. They're still in New York. They're still in, the rat race, and they're maybe thinking of doing something like what you're doing. What advice would you have to that person in the rat race?
I guess it depends how long they've been in that rat race. No, I mean, I started my first business when I was 17. No, I didn't do college, didn't do university. I was straight into the private sector and straight away trying to make money from a young age because I just didn't have any other options. So yeah, I mean, like so much time. I mean, for me, it was like 5 years of China. The stress of that, the over drinking, bad, obviously eating a lot of bad stuff, not sleeping properly. Obviously, it does take an effect now, and sometimes it takes years for you to like properly recover from like chronic type stress. Especially like being like I'm not a licensed like, financial advisor or broker, but I mean, pretty much what I do is like an investment banking kind of service, and
Mhm.
and yeah, it does take it out of you. So I would say to my kind of, I've got a lot of friends in Dubai who are considering kind of buying land and doing other stuff and kind of building their own like house or ranch. I mean, like it all depends if you want it, right? Like for me, I love waking up and seeing 30 miles in every direction, and you got a panoramic view. And but I just thought for me, like to make money in Dubai was pretty challenging, locally. Obviously, it's very hard to compete against Emiratis, and there's obviously politics and other stuff you got to consider. But for me, it was just the fact that now if I'm saving several $100,000 every year for 20 years here, and I'm like living a more healthier life, and you're just compounding your money, and you put it in in stocks, bonds, equities, not really thinking about it, and not like day trading that stuff. I mean, it's just a question of time until you kind of build up a fortress and a foundation in your life which makes you unfuckable. So, for instance, if you don't want to work with people, you can just say no. Like I'm at that stage of my life where if someone's just going to be too much drama or too much of a headache, or they don't value the way they should, then no, I just won't work with them. And I think kind of living a simpler life sometimes is you can take the foot off the pedal a bit and just kind of make more strategic kind of kind of actions, to kind of better improve your life. And as I said, I want a family and I want kids. I'm just not sure I want kids like growing up in England or the UAE, especially in England. I just can't. I don't think I'm going to better their lives, better than the life I had, being raised in the '90s. So for me, I just think there's a lot more opportunities, and sometimes you got to travel, you got to get out your comfort zone. And I've got family back in the UK and also in Dubai. But yeah, I mean, I don't need to be with them all the time. I don't need to see them on the weekends to do calls. I've lived, as I said, like 10 years plus overseas. So it's very manageable. You just have to kind of meet expectations and just kind of keep in the loop with obviously your mum and dad and other people. But that would be my suggestion to anyone who kind of wants to check out Paraguay now. Obviously, come here for a few weeks, eat some tomahawk steaks, kind of enjoy life. But just know that it's very laid back, it's very different, and there's going to be little frustrations in any country you go to. But I think anyone who says like, there's loads of crime and it's third world, I think they're just talking shit. I mean, there's a lot of good people here, and yeah, there's obviously a minority of bad people. But I mean, for me, I've not seen any crime here. I've not seen any drunken fights. I've not seen a lot of that kind of crap that you do see across the West, and I feel pretty safe. And hey, if you don't feel safe, I mean, you can always buy guns here. That's legal. You can kind of, like, for instance, having a security guy, having some dogs, security cameras. I mean, that's as safe as you can be. So for me, I like it. And obviously in Paraguay, you haven't got a socialist government, right? There's a lot of conservatism in this kind of environment, and yeah, people are pretty chill. I mean, you'll hear the word tranquilo a lot here, and it's just
Uh-huh.
chilled, right? Like, a lot of people are just very relaxed, and they're trying to enjoy life, and just trying to get on with their own lives. So yeah, I guess there's a few messages and all that, but my view is just kind of, if you want something, like, enough, you'll find a way to get it, right? So just a question of, do you actually know what you want? And if you do, then obviously just action. Make a plan and then stick to it.
And what have been some of your biggest misconceptions or surprises about Paraguay, kind of expectations versus reality?
I thought the Spanish would be harder, as in the lack of Spanish. But I mean, like, I'm getting by pretty well. My girlfriend speaks a bit better Spanish than I do, and obviously, whenever in doubt, we just go to Google Translate. But as I said, the Guarani is going to be the issue, because obviously there's other official language there, and it's obviously, you won't find that on Google Translate. So obviously the language is sometimes a complication. And then obviously just getting Western products, Western kind of, obviously a lot of things are different, right? Like the stuff I can get in Dubai or London in a supermarket that you can't get here. But I've been pleasantly surprised by the price of, like, kind of meat here. Like, you can get the best tomahawks, the best restaurants for like $12 or £10, which just blows my mind. Like, in Dubai, I would regularly pay 8 times more than that. In a in a kind of a middle kind of restaurant. Like, I mean, not even the Zuma type level, but just like a normal restaurant. So yeah, I think obviously the price of things is obviously much cheaper out here. Some things do cost more. So for instance, certain electronics is very much on the same price. So like buying TVs, buying some other stuff, that'll be the same kind of price. But yeah, I mean, again, it all really depends on what you want. I mean, this isn't like a tourist hotspot. Go to Rio and spend some time there, or go to somewhere in Argentina, or go to Colombia. But if you want to kind of really kind of focus on kind of building your wealth and compounding it, building a nice family, and kind of getting your shit in order, I just think this place is a really good place to build roots. And I think the next 5-10 years, I think this country is just going to prosper. I think they're doing about 4.55% growth, projection this year. And it's always best to be in a growth society, right? I mean, for the last 12 years, the UK hasn't grown. I mean, the debt's grown, a lot of our problems have grown, but no, I don't really feel the economy's grown. And I think that's the same with most Western countries. And maybe under the US with Trump, maybe there's going to be a certain amount of energy that gets unleashed. But I just can't see the European kind of economies doing any better in this market. So for me, Paraguay is the place to be. But I'm not here all the time. No, I do travel a bit, and obviously I do still have a UAE visa, still got a UAE kind of company. So I still do have obviously ties
Right.
to that place.
And that's what we recommend is to have multiple residencies, right? Because I think Dubai, you got to go every 6 months to maintain it, something like that, right?
Yeah, unless you've got a golden visa. But if you're following a five flags kind of theory, I know some of the guys are into it. I mean Paraguay, UAE. I mean you've pretty much hit your number two ones there. And obviously, if the UK government did try and impose a global taxation similar to what the US have with the IRS and obviously the overseas kind of tax returns that you still have to do. I mean, if the UK kind of went in that direction, no, I would probably really kind of consider getting a Paraguay citizenship because it's relatively easy to, to get, and obviously with the investments that I'm making in this country and the long kind of the roots that I'm trying to set here. No, I think I would be very good for for the country. And if Paraguay can attract 100,000 entrepreneurs with the same attitude and people who aren't going to take from the state, but obviously try and create value, then I think this place is going to be pretty good. But I don't think this is going to be like Assassin is not going to turn into a Dubai. It's a very different kind of vibe, and even if they put
Right.
billions into it, it'd be very different. But yeah, I think for me, it's just always having options and adaptability, right? And I think this is the type of place where you can, it's a good place to
Yeah.
be in.
Yeah. And if the Paraguay citizenship takes longer than you expect, hey, man, we can help you get maybe citizenship by investment, get a little Caribbean passport, something like that.
Exactly. No, I mean, I've looked at the Cayman Islands and a few other places, but yeah, I mean, I think having optionality is good now, especially for the guys in crypto and other businesses that kind of can't really move as fast or things can change now. Yeah, I mean, people should really kind of get smart about how they're going to be positioned. I know everything's always changing, but as Andrew Henson always says, like go where you treated best, and I mean, Vance, same kind of mindset. I think if you just kind of you just stay in one place, you just you don't really kind of adapt to to the new world, and yeah, no, it's an interesting space. I'm always looking for somewhere better to go, but I mean, as traveling 70 countries for me, Dubai and the UAE, I know with Paraguay, that's the best fit for what I'm trying to build right now in my life.
Definitely. So we'll get to wrapping up. Random question. Are you seeing any cool animals on your property? Do you have like armadillos? Are you seeing a bunch of cool exotic birds?
I mean, obviously, there is a lot of insects and birds that I've never seen before in the West or anywhere on my travels. I think for me, if you want to like see the extremes, I mean, it's you go to the Chaco, which is I mean, you could drive all the way to Bolivia from into the north. You'll see like jaguars, Grand Cayman. There's all sorts of like interesting stuff, especially on the Amazon jungle part of the Chaco. But yeah, I mean, I've seen a snake here, but I mean that's the only one I've seen, and
That's
no, I've got a dog here now. That's usually pretty good with this kind of thing. Um, but yeah, no, it's no. I mean, for me, what all I can say is everything grows here. Like
yeah.
it's weird because obviously sometimes it's 38, 40 Celsius, but every few days there's a thunderstorm just comes in and you can see like the grass the way some of the plants grow and they can grow like a meter in a few weeks. It's it can get really kind of I mean if you're not on top of things, it can really kind of get wild. So yeah, I mean if you literally anything you can think of down here, you can grow. The only thing that can't really grow on this land is berries. I find that like that's a bit of a struggle, like blueberries. I think it's just because of the heat. But yeah, I mean like bananas, mangoes, like grapes, like you name it, like it grows and grows fast here as well. So I'm going to probably grow some eucalyptus trees as well. I'm going to probably do a few hectares in that. But there's all sorts you can do. Like I'm really kind of trying to experiment and trying to learn myself right about what's the best what's the best things to grow and how to best
Oh
maintain the
man.
land.
I'd be doing all the fruit trees, papaya, guayava.
Yeah, exactly. Now But you can now. If you ever come down here, you can. No, I'll give you a quarter of a hectare. You can we can experiment.
Deal. What do you? I come down, bro. I'm a permanent resident of Paraguay. I'll be down. I'll be down.
Well, no, tomahawk on me when you're next in no Pay.
I'm down. I'm down. Cool, man. Well, let's wrap it up there. Any final message for the audience where they can find you, all that good stuff?
I just think, like, obviously, I'm on X, I'm on LinkedIn. I don't really do anything on YouTube, on Telegram, WhatsApp. Obviously, where mostly communicate. And yeah, if people are obviously looking to go all in on Paraguay, I mean, I'm happy to kind of handhold a little bit on the real estate, just so you don't make as many mistakes as I made. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the visas, stuff like that, that's your kind of gig. That's where you can help. I can just say that obviously sometimes it does take 3 or 4 months to get your scheduler, and it's a bit of a headache. But obviously, just know that it's like that in this country. Some things just take longer than they should. And yeah, no, I kind of I'll leave it there. And again, sorry for the power going down earlier. As I said, I need to work out a better way to get the electricity to work with a reserve kind of battery.
No worries, man. I mean, really cool what you're doing. I wish we had time to go into all the lessons learned buying real estate, but that would have been a whole hour or 2 hours just talking about, mistakes and the real estate process and all that type of stuff. So maybe we'll have to have you back for that.
Yeah, Brent. Okay, man. Have a great day. Speak to you soon.
Absolutely. This has been another episode of the My Latin Life podcast. My guest again is Alexander Jarvis. Link in the description. You can follow him there. And then for the audience, please subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, X, YouTube, wherever you're watching this. We put out 2 episodes a week with amazing guests like Alexander, and you won't want to miss an episode. Ciao for now.
Ciao.